Hello, Trojan fans. Welcome to another edition of the Peristyle Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Abraham, publisher of USCFootball.com, covering USC since 1996, if you can believe that. And I'm joined alongside Mr. Connor Morrissette. We call him Triple Double. He's here in studio with me. Connor, what's up, man? How are you?
Doing well. How are you? How are your multiple fishing trips since I last saw you?
Did a little vacation in Cabo. We were supposed to fish with Jacob Rogers. We went on a boat with him and his family, but the weather got bad. Some of his family got sick, so we didn't really do any fishing. But I went fishing yesterday out of St. Pedro over to Catalina and caught a whole bunch of stuff. So that was fun. But yeah, it was good. I'm a little tired. Vacation followed by a full-day fishing trip with not much sleep. But I'm here. We're doing it on Tuesday because we got to talk to Justin Talanoa earlier on through House of Victory, so we'll put that up on our YouTube channel, and of course USCFootball.com. And we usually just do our live show whenever we can get one of the student athletes. So I think you guys will enjoy that interview. We could probably talk about a little of the stuff that we learned from Justin. We want to learn stuff from you guys, what you want to hear about, any questions you have, topics for the show throughout the offseason. You can email us podcast@USCFootball.com. You can also call or text us at 424-254-9141. We got 3 voicemails for you today, so we'll play you those later on the show. And if you have the Apple Podcasting app or Spotify, wherever you listen to the podcast, we love it. Thank you for that. On Apple and Spotify, you can actually leave us a 5-star rating to the Peristyle Podcast. That would be very helpful. And on Apple, you can leave us a review. We love those. The 5-star ones are great. We love to read them to you when we get one. And we actually got a new one from Sue Sim. For the Dado Download, which covers the USC baseball team. They made a run trying to get the Super Regional, just fell short. Great end of the season podcast. Appreciate the analysis and insights by Shotgun and Casey, and love their relationship with Coach Stank. Until next season. Yeah,
Sue Sim is great, so shout out to her. Thank you for the great email. We both know her. She's the best.
Yeah,
so.
She's awesome.
So thank you for that, even though it's not our show, but I know she listens to this one too, and she's been very complimentary. Thank you, Sue.
Yeah, Sue, great stuff. We appreciate that. Yeah, USC made a run at the Directors Cup. They used to call it the Sears Cup or whatever. As far as, the best athletic department in the country, which Stanford's won forever, and then I think Texas has won a bunch recently, and Texas, Stanford, and USC were all down to the finals. And I think if USC would have made it to the Super Regional, they would have won the best department. But it was like a fraction of a point or something. They were behind Texas. But I was looking through. They did a good job covering it as far as the Directors Cup Twitter account. I was following that. And you look at all the sports. I think every sport for USC got points except for the men's basketball team. So any points from any of the other, men's basketball, they would have won it going away. But just a shout out to Jen Cohen, the athletic department. They're just crushing it, just being highly ranked in a lot of different sports. I know it's a time where we're all focusing on football and the revenue sharing and all that, but it meant a lot, I think, down the road where, USC, Stanford, and Texas, they all had chances. And it came down to the track. USC split the national championship in track with Texas A&M on the men's side. They won the indoor, tied on the outdoor. If they would have won it outright, they would have won the cup. But yeah, it was crazy. But it shows how good the USC athletic department is. So pretty kudos to them, Jen and everybody over at the athletic department doing a nice job.
What if USC football had beaten Maryland?
No, I think it's just they won their bowl game, so they got points.
I'm joking. We bring that up, and everyone gets mad. So I was just poking the bear.
Yeah,
with that
I didn't know how the points worked, but it said USC won a bowl game, and then Texas was in a playoff. They got more points for football, but it wasn't significant. Having 0 points for men's basketball, I think that hurt more than anything.
If they had finished above 500 on the men's side, with that, or did they need to?
I don't know if you have to make the post. I'm not exactly sure how it works.
But regardless, we're into the nitty gritty here. Jen Cohen's done an awesome job, and I remember doing instant analysis with you. I had just pretty recently been hired, and we went to her introductory press conference, and we had heard from people in Washington hey, she does a good job, you're going to like her, but you don't really know how someone will fit in LA at this school, different spot, with all the crazy changes in college sports, and we focus heavily on the football side, of course, at USCFootball.com, and that seems to be trending in a better direction than last season. But like overall, Jen's doing an awesome job, and I hope USC fans see that and appreciate her, because, I mean, you talk a lot about some of the old athletic directors, how crappy they were. It's just night and day, and it's great to see USC not shoot itself in the foot. They were shooting themselves in the foot for so long, and that's no longer the case. That's huge.
Yeah, Darren says Directors Cup was impacted well by track and field. Women's second place finish and the men's win. Yeah, for sure. A lot of, to see track come back, and John Kolich is a friend of ours. We're going to try to get maybe like Connor McCullough. It'd be great to get Quincy Watts on. We could talk some track in the offseason to win the indoor title and then, split the outdoor title. Pretty impressive what they've been able to do. And a lot of that comes from the support and having like a donor like John Kolich helping out. It just shows, what you can do in this new era of college athletics. But yeah, we'd love to talk. We had a show. I think I had some of the track guys on a couple of years ago or a year ago or something. Maybe when you first joined up, I did a show with those guys, or maybe it was right before you came on.
I think it was right before, actually.
Before you joined,
I probably would have been involved with that, but
I went down to the facility in Wilmington and to see that they put this together just for the throwers, and it was great to do some interviews and stuff down there. But yeah, we'll try to get some of that going on. But cool, yeah, we'll talk a little track in the off season. But yeah, the athletic department doing a good job. Trojan SC, and we are live on Twitter, and we're live on YouTube and live on Facebook. So if you have any comments, put them in there. I've been putting some up on the screen if you're watching along. Trojans SC, Ryan, you need to write a book about the USC athletic department. That would be interesting. I don't know. I guess I could do that. Early retirement, just write a book about everything that's going on. The run of Mike Garrett, Pat Hayden, Lynn Swan is just going to go down in history as like, woo, you just went 3 USC football players in a row for athletic director, huh? All right, that's something. But kudos to the athletic department for being right there. It was a hair. They were watching different individual events at the end of the women's track and field competition to see who was going to be put over the top. Like a Stanford runner would need to finish second instead of third. Like there was all kinds of crazy stuff. So, and Jay says on Facebook, we got Jay, time is flying, only 74 days until kickoff.
Bring on Missouri State. Are they the Bears, I think? What are they?
I don't even know. Google. People how embarrassing is this? Like people, someone asked, what's the schedule? I'm like, I know they play Georgia Southern and then some other team. Remember Missouri State, They are
the Bears, and that's who gets them started.
Yeah. Jeff says we finally have adults running the show. Yes. Very, very true. And it's good to have good people making decisions. Decisions are important. You make a lot of bad decisions. I would say it's like one bad decision, whatever. But if you skip 10 parking tickets versus 1, you get a boot on your car. And when you got 30 years of kind of bad leadership in the athletic department, you're going to have a lot of bad decisions that compounded and a lot of boots on your cars. And then people come in and have to try to fix it all. So kudos to them doing it now. Eric Hyde says, finally got a free moment on Tuesday to join you guys. Enjoying this, Sir Eric of Troy. Thanks, Sir Eric of Troy.
Thank you, Sir Eric
Long time of Troy. Friend of the show. Yeah, so what are we going to talk about today? USC got a big commitment we're going to get into. I wanted to talk about the Elite 11 is coming here to Southern California, actually just the next beach town over, Manhattan Beach, Miracosta High School. Sometimes he said do it Redondo Union, which we could walk to from here. They were doing the Elite 11 3 years ago when it was announced, when John Wilner broke that USC and UCLA were joining the Big Ten. So I was down there covering that. And is it 3 years ago? Yeah, that was 3 years ago, right? Yeah. I was down there covering that. And
I was there too, just working for someone else. That's
yeah.
Funny.
And 247 had asked me hey, we have mobile stuff here. We can do a show, a emergency show. I'm like, my studio is literally a half a mile from here. But I went out with Josh Pate that day, talked about it. So that was a crazy day. Hopefully a little less crazy this time, but we'll be there. Check it out. Jonas Williams, USC commit, class of 2026. And so that should be a lot of fun. We also do talk about some of the summer school previews. Cover 3 and Bud Elliott does a great job every year with his summer school, 20, 30 minutes talking to individual publishers or people that cover some of the top teams in the country. So I've been doing that with him for several years. I went on that, but Connor's been listening to some of USC opponents, so we'll get some info on all of that and what he thought about. I think there's been 6 USC opponents that have been summer schooled.
So far,
already,
6,
Connor?
and that doesn't include Michigan and Nebraska, so we know we'll get previews from them coming up. And
Yeah.
I think how this will all end, Ryan, is I'll do all the Power 5 opponents, and then there, of course, won't be one for Georgia Southern and Missouri State. But I'm going to try to find a beat writer somewhere who covers those schools and try to do a preview of the off season on those two to get a complete look at the whole schedule, which I think should be pretty fun.
Yeah, and in the chat, Anthony was pointing out, maybe I missed it, but who will be Carol Folt's successor? They haven't. That's USC's president, outgoing president, has not been picked yet. They have an interim president who is the general counsel, and I'm blanking on his name right now, but they have an interim president and looking. I don't know how long it's going to take, but they're looking to get a new president at USC. All right, Connor, let's get into this big commitment. It was breaking news when it happened, but down to USC and UCLA. Southern California kid going to one of my favorite high schools around, Kahuku High School, North Shore of Oahu. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson went there. It's like amazing, right on the coast of the North Shore in Hawaii, Oahu, that island. And if you go there, like one of the most famous things around, you know, the Kamehameha Highway, you drive all around. Just right there is the shrimp trucks. There's a whole bunch of shrimp trucks. Giovanni's, I think, is the original and the favorite one. It's like you could walk there from Kahuku High School. Every time I go, I always go over to the shrimp trucks and check it out. But Kahuku is a great school. Transfers there. But Talanoa Ili, the 4-star linebacker, position of need for sure. Number 1 recruiting class, sort of had a hole in it, and it was probably the linebacker hole. Trying to fill it with Talanoa, but you know, what are your thoughts on USC's latest commitment, Connor?
I just go back to what a difference a year makes, because a year ago at this time, yes, Talanoa Ili had a long way to go before he was committing, before he's signing, but this kid seemed locked and loaded to Oregon. This seemed like a guy who was going to go to Oregon no matter what. He's very close with Tamuhini Tapui, who at some point last year, I believe, or maybe early this year, had committed to Oregon. Those guys looked like they were going to be the classic case of talented players with Southern California roots who go to Oregon, who don't go to USC. And this new personnel staff that USC's added, yes, Lincoln Riley deserves credit. Yes, Rob Ryan deserves credit. But I think Chad Bowden deserves the most credit. He's getting guys that USC, I'll just call it how I see it, like wouldn't have sniffed a year ago. They would not have gotten Talanoa Ili committed if they were doing what they had done in the past. They would not have gotten Kenai Pepe committed if they were doing what they've done in the past. They're not getting Mark Bowman committed if they were doing what they've done in the past. Chad Bowden has come to USC. He's revolutionized the recruiting department. And yes, these guys still need to sign. There's a way to go. But like, they're so far ahead and they have the number 1 recruiting class. And it's for a reason. It's because he's brought this thing up to speed. And there were signs of progress last year, but it's just night and day when you look at what USC, that 2024 class, was not good. The 2025 class got a little bit better, but still not where you'd hope for USC to be. And now in 2026, they're just knocking it out of the park. And Talanoa Ili is another guy who would not be committed to USC if it wasn't for this new staff and just how they've revolutionized recruiting. And that goes into the relationship piece. That goes into the money piece. It's not just one thing here or there. They needed a complete overhaul, and Chad Bowden, in the matter of a few months here, has completed that overhaul. It's very impressive, and USC is recruiting at such a high pace, and a lot of credit deserves to go out, but I think he's the ringleader here, and when I hear Talanoa Ili commit, I think of Chad Bowden first and foremost.
100%, and I think it comes back to like the making the good decisions, and you know, I think you have the football staff that gets hired in, Lincoln Riley and everybody, and they come over, and it's kind of a different era, like the success that he had at Oklahoma. By the time it gets to USC, the sport has now changed a bunch. And I think USC having an athletic department that was still trying to like dig itself out from the ashes of the disasters of the previous administrations. It wasn't one that was adapting to the new world. And it's one of those things that you needed to do that. So it was a little slower going. And to get, but I think I'm going to give USC credit going from like really sort of weak on the personnel side, the plan of attack for recruiting, incorporating NIL, all of that USC was behind. And not only like caught up, like a lot of times you can do that. You're like, man, we suck at this stuff, whatever it is. And you get like, hey, we're decent now. That's great. They went from like being low in the totem pole to near the top, where they're like, okay, this is a place where you can have great success. And if we hire a huge, an amazing personnel staff, and what did Chad Bowden do? Put together a roster with less resources at Notre Dame, and goes to make a run to the national championship. What can you do with the really good resources you have here? I think last year was probably eye-opening for everyone around the football department, the athletic department, knowing that, wow, hey, we finally got money involved, but they weren't getting the same kind of success. You need the strategy behind it too. So I think now you got the resources, you have the right people in place making the right decisions, and these are the results. And you're right, they wouldn't have sniffed a guy like that or some of the other guys you mentioned the last couple of years. And the fact that they can not only sniff them now, but actually land them, it's a pretty impressive turnaround. And make no mistake, like it's a major turnaround. This is very different than what you saw recruiting the last couple of years to recruiting right now for USC football is almost like, it's like a different sport. And they're playing the game now, and they're playing it well. And that's, you got to tip your cap to everybody there. People making changes the way they used to do things, new people coming in, showing a new light, shedding new light on things and changing philosophies and all that. It's working, and you're seeing the results.
They didn't have their shit together, and now they do. That's the best way.
That's a great, literally, that's a great, if you want to summarize it, that's a great way to put it. Like, literally did not have their shit together.
And looking at signing day last year, we'll pay Jakeem Stewart, we'll pay Hassan Longstreet, we'll get some of these premier guys, but like, you wonder if they had been playing that game the whole way, what does that 2025 class look like? Now the money piece, it's been streamlined. It's just so different than what was going on. Like USC, yes, they were paying recruits, but not at the level that you just needed to be in the mix, and that's totally changed now. So that's great to see. But let's get into Talanoa Ili as a player. So
yeah,
he's very versatile. He's the number 3 ranked linebacker in the 247 Sports rankings. A lot of fans were disappointed when USC wouldn't budge on their no official visit stance for commits, and Xavier Griffin ends up decommitting. They're different players, but you needed a premier linebacker in your class, and it's not going to be Xavier Griffin, but Talanoa Ili is more than enough to fill that void. So that 2026 linebacker room, Ryan, all of a sudden, because they've taken so many young linebackers these past couple cycles, and they took Tamir Robinson from the portal, like there's going to be a lot of linebacker depth in 2026, but Talanoa Ili is the kind of guy, if he enrolls early, has a good spring, maybe he's not a starting linebacker in that first year, but he has the potential to come in and play a role. And that's what's so exciting about this 2026 class. They're not going to make a huge impact in that first year, most of these guys, but like you have some top-end talented guys where it's like, okay, like maybe Kenai Pepe has a role in the offensive line. Maybe Mark Bowman comes in and starts at tight end. Talanoa Ili could play some linebacker. You have some really good defensive linemen. The next 3 guys, Samote Katawanga, Jamian Winfield, Tamanhi Sapui. In my opinion, Sapui is the guy who's ready to play right away out of that mix potentially and be there and be in the rotation. So we always talk about how like recruiting matters and you got to stack classes and that's fun. But like when you're recruiting at this clip, number 1 class in the country, you have guys who can come in and play right away. And that's really exciting for me too. Forget about 2 or 3 years down the road. Some of these guys, and Ili's included, like could play that first year, which is really fun. Yeah,
no, it's definitely fun. I think a lot of I've been doing this, I mentioned at the top of the show, since 1996, and recruiting has always been a huge part of things. It's changed a lot. The transfer portal and everything. There's sometimes fans will get attached to a player, and their transfers would happen, but nowhere near the rate. You might fall in love with a Zachariah Branch, who's a 5-star kid, and his older brother's on the team, and you're like, I can't wait to see him develop and do all these things. And there's some flashes, and then all of a sudden he's gone. And fans are like, I was so invested, and there was a 5-star player, and now he's no longer on the team. Like it's changed a lot, and I think the way USC recruited, they weren't getting the guys. It was almost like when I first started back in the 90s, when a lot of the top players in California were going to the powers at the time, which was like Miami and Florida State and probably Ohio State and Texas and stuff too. But they're maybe not Texas as much. Like there was guys were going out of state, and I think the Florida schools were the biggest at the time. And when Pete Carroll came in, he made recruiting a lot more fun for USC fans because the top players had a cool option to stay in California. There just wasn't a cool option to stay in California if you were a top player. DJ Williams, I think it was, out of De La Salle, guys like that, they were leaving the state and they were like, let's go to Florida State or let's go to Miami, like where big time college football is played, and it wasn't happening. And then Pete Carroll kind of changed that. And you get used to just recruiting at a high level, keeping local guys, and then going out of state and getting some top guys. And I think the last couple of years, you didn't have that feel anymore. And now for this class, it feels a lot more like those years than any of the last few. So kudos to Lincoln Riley and Chad Bowden and everybody, because you're getting the fans excited again to be in all these big. You're not going to win every battle, but man, they're winning a lot, and they're in them. And you couldn't even say you were in the battle like the last couple of years. So it's a big deal what's happening now, and I think for the health of the program, to keep fans engaged. Like if you're not winning, if you're not recruiting at a top 5 level, some fans get turned off. They're huge at the big into the recruiting aspect of it, and now you're seeing that recruiting go back up and be a big deal. And I think it's something that fans really love.
Recruiting is so important, but I have a hard time when fans get excited about the individual players because it's so challenging to project out who's going to do what. But like, I understand why you'd be excited about a 5-star guy. I'm not saying don't be excited about a 5-star guy, but like the way I approach it is, if you have a top 10 class, you have a chance, and you can stack those, you have a chance to do something special. Guys are going to leave. We all know how that will come together, of course, just in this era that we're in. So like, what's funny to me, like, it's our business model. I don't want to be mean to our subscribers, but like when a big time kid commits, like Jack Smith and I used to always have this conversation, like it's great, but like there's still so much that needs to happen for them to have success. And so when you recruit at such a high level that you bring in so many players who have a chance to have success, like maybe if half the guys who I was talking about earlier do well, like I think that's still a winning formula. And when you don't recruit at that high level, everything needs to go right, and that just hasn't happen, and that's unrealistic to think will happen. So I'm glad that they're doing so well, and it's such a large number of recruits that are all in on USC, because we know probably half of them won't make it for the long haul, but half of them will, and half of this class that you have right now is pretty damn good.
Pretty good. G-Mart is in the chat. He says, we need a scholarship distribution chart update. Yeah, I was doing that. I think I'm handing that off to RJ to let him do it. So, I probably owe him something. But G-Mart, put in the chat some of the guys like De La Salle or what's the Ventura, the St. Bonaventure, like some of the big time like 90s college football stars that USC wasn't even sniffing, and they went elsewhere.
Your friend
Lorenzo Booker, like
the offensive lineman from De La Salle who went to Notre Dame. What was his? Aaron Taylor?
Oh, Aaron Taylor, yeah. He went to Notre Dame.
For some reason, De La Salle and USC, it's never really worked out.
It hasn't. Yeah, there's been some bad. But I forget who there was a quarterback. It might have been St. Bonaventure quarterback. But, yeah, we'll get Gerard. Get Gerard in the chat, like spinning some yarn from yesteryear. Lorenzo Booker, yeah. I mentioned him, so that was a good one. I recall that. That's not bad. Chris Ricks.
Yes.
Chris Ricks, yeah.
I love Chris. Chris is the man.
I put the wrong one up there. Chris Ricks, yeah. So that's the kind of environment that USC fans were in, and then Pete Carroll sort of changed that, and it looks like USC's changing it again. And I think where you really get USC fans involved, when you're like, hey man, these guys are staying home, and it's different reasons. You're recruiting completely different than back then. But the appeal of USC being a college football power still has value, but you need to add the value with the compensation portion too. And now USC is doing that right, so it allows the other stuff to work, So good stuff.
Are you at all worried it's a little too late for this? Like, what if they don't have a good year and then stuff can kind of go to the wayside? Like, my frustration, like the frustrating thing for me is just why weren't they doing this earlier? I know there's a million reasons to that, but like I still don't let them off the hook for that. Just what I am fearful of, Ryan, is like they finally figured this out, but if you have another bad season, then what does it all look like? So
yeah, no, I think the whole good decision thing, just making good decisions. You're stacking days, you're stacking good decisions, and better things are down the road. It's great. Yeah, 2026 isn't going to help you this year, but I still think they're making better choices and did better in the portal with the personnel department, and I think they're going to still be. They'll be better this year, but I feel like you're building towards now you can be. There's something you can withstand, long-term potential here. Kevin Simon, he put in. Travis Johnson went to Florida State. Yeah, people are putting Ricky Town in there, but that's not that one. Okay, thanks Gerard for being in the chat. I'm sure we can do some other contributions. Speaking of, on the recruiting side, I know there was just so USC has been doing some camps. There'll be another camp on Thursday that USCfootball.com will be at, but Connor and I will be at the Elite 11, which is in Miracosta High School. We're going to be out there later this evening checking out Jonas Williams. But there was a camp yesterday. I know Chris stopped by at USC, and there's a lot of 2027 kids there. I think the recruiting period opened up for them, more communications and stuff. So that seemed like it was a good event. Well,
just getting kids on campus early is huge. And the fact that contact period started and then boom, USC has a camp and they get some really talented kids, not just on the West Coast, but there was a 5-star defensive lineman from Texas and just kids from all over the place onto campus, starting that relationship. The whole staff is doing an exceptional job. And what I love, Ryan, is we've talked so much about the relationship piece. Like Oregon, when they were in their heyday recruiting, it's funny to say when they were because they're struggling right now. It can flip like this. We talk so much about, yes, the money is huge, but like those guys are recruiting nonstop and it's the relationships and they're doing such a great job there. Like now you have Trevon Reed, another guy to recruit defensive backs in addition to bringing his prowess to on the field coaching and Doug Belk. And like you have really good recruiters on the staff. And then there's the personnel staff where you have Chad Bowden and then the guys under him, and you can assign specific players to specific staff members where Lincoln Riley and Chad Bowden are overseeing everything, but then there are going to be some players who are a Dre Brown and then their position coach guy, and then other guys will be like a Max Steinecker guy, and those relationships are huge. Mark Bowman talked a lot about how Max Steinecker really helped him and made it easier for him to commit to USC because he had that relationship. And if USC doesn't have that personnel staff and you're putting that all on the assistant coaches, that makes it a lot harder. So I think that's another piece of the pie too, and the fact that USC had all these great 2027 kids on campus yesterday. That gives all these guys in the position to have relationship with these recruits. That gets that ball rolling. That gets that started, and just seems like another solid, smart move to me. And we'll see if they can keep up the momentum in 2027. They might get their first 2027 commit. I don't know if it's going to be this week, but it seems like things are trending in the right direction there. So what else can we say about the recruiting front with them? They're doing an amazing job.
Yeah, there's Danny Lang. That was yesterday, and Chris put up a whole bunch of photos of a lot of there's some 2028 kids, 2027 kids were at USC yesterday, so you can go check that out. I'm sure they'll be discussed on the Composite 2-Star Recruits podcast that G-Mart Live, who's in the chat, is talking about. He had mentioned Florida State, Miami, Tennessee, Ohio State. Cherry picked a ton of kids back then. UCLA was actually good, but they missed on a lot of dudes. Yeah, UCLA never recruited at the level that they could have, I think, for, sometimes when they're bad, whatever, but when they were good, they just, I don't know, the recruiting wasn't quite up to snuff there. But the Elite 11, we'll get to see Jonas Williams tonight, and we'll see him for the next few days. But any thoughts heading into Elite 11, Connor?
Another example of what a difference a year makes. Last year, Julian Lewis, who we can come out and say it now, was dicking USC around pretty blatantly was there, and it was our job to cover him. And, hey, Julian, do you mind if you have 5 minutes for USCfootball.com? And he would just say no and walk away. Like, it was not fun covering the quarterback last year before Hassan Longstreet. And now he's, of course, at Colorado, and Longstreet took his spot in the class. But it's refreshing. Jonas Williams, I think, has spoken to Chris in the past. He's a nice kid, and I'm excited to watch him for the first time in person. He's done a really nice job recruiting this class. Like, I don't want to be mean to a high school kid, but he's kind of doing everything that Julian Lewis didn't do for the better. So it's another area of growth where USC, remember, they wanted Ryder Lyons, and when he didn't commit, they backed off him. We can all safely say USC spent way too much time with Julian Lewis committed last year when he was openly visiting other places and really keeping his options open despite being committed to USC. It's the quarterback's job to recruit that class, and Jonas Williams is doing an awesome job of that. He was on his official visit last weekend. 2 weeks ago, for that first official visit weekend, he was also there unofficially, getting to know some of the commits, getting to know some of the uncommitted kids, trying to get as many people into this class as possible. And it's just everything Julian Lewis wasn't from a year ago. So I am very confident he's going to stay in this class, Jonas Williams, and really excited to talk with him, meet with him, and watch him over the next 3 days.
I'm really excited too. And we did get a comment from Ted. No Trader Joe's commercial? Ted, I screwed up. You called me out on it. I totally forgot.
I was going to bring that up after the break.
Oh, yeah, we could do that. But it's good. Yeah, so recruiting for USC, you say bueno, thumbs up. Doing well. Trader Joe's, thumbs up as well. Love going there, and I just got back from vacation, so I have to go into the store. I was very tired today before the show, so I didn't get a chance to, but I will afterwards, or at least after I go to the Elite 11 tonight. I'm looking at the website. They got some different options there, and the buns seem to be a theme. The pretzel buns I looked at, and like those look really good. Are you a pretzel bun kind of person?
I don't know, but it sounds good.
It looked, that looks really good. Like making little sandwiches, but they also had the potato buns. Those look good. So I love going to the little bread area because they got fresh baked stuff. You can try some different things. It's usually like, what kind of sandwich do I want to make or whatever. Those look good. And they also have a bunch of different cheeses featured on the message on the website. Italian Bigodona cheese with herbs. So from the Dolomite Mountain region of Italy. But I love just any picture of like a charcuterie board is great. I love that. So anyway, go check out TraderJoe's.com. I will go to the store and go look for some buns. I don't know what I'm going to go with, but I'm going to pick some sort of bread item and, pick up some different meats and cheeses and make little sandwiches and stuff. I love doing that kind of stuff.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah, we'll see. But yes, thanks, Ted, for pointing out that I forgot to talk about our friend, our sponsor, Trader Joe's. So we appreciate them. And go to TraderJoe's.com. You'll get some good ideas. It's always great. Okay. Let's see. So we were going to talk about the recruiting aspect of things. Anything else on that? I mean, we'll get a full report from what's going to happen at Elite 11. I'll shoot some video. We'll both probably shoot video, photos, and things like that. Let you know what we see from Jonas Williams. It's always cool to kind of compare at the Elite 11 camp the quarterbacks to each other, and some of the drills are kind of quirky or whatever. But you get a decent feel for like how they do in that environment. Yeah, like there's not. It's not a real game sort of situation, but they're given instructions and playbooks and like, hey, how are you going to perform under this environment? And some quarterbacks do really well. I remember some just were like, whatever. I'm blanking on who's the highly ranked recruit that went to UCLA. What's it?
Dante Moore.
No. Before that, he got drafted and it didn't work out. Why am I blanking on his name?
DTR.
No, even before him.
Troy Aikman.
No, damn it, Connor. Maybe Gerard or someone.
Josh Rosen?
Josh Rosen, yeah. Who like goes to, I think it was he just kind of went in there and was like, yeah, whatever. Like, I'm not doing all this stupid stuff. So he didn't get a very high mark from the people at the Elite 11, but he was obviously a really good quarterback. But
was he?
I mean,
for college. I'm giving you a hard
yeah,
time.
like he was a top 10 pick, right? He was like number 10.
Yeah, but that attitude that he showed at the Elite 11 kind of followed him, and it's probably why he failed in the NFL. He didn't have his head on straight.
Jay called it in the chat. We had Brett Hundley. Like, no, I mean, this is Josh Rosen. I remember him being one that was like poo-pooing the sort of like, it's they have like they have really detailed. They have years and years of experience coaching quarterbacks at the Elite 11. They have their method and how they do all this stuff. And I think most players, I think, just buy in like, hey, this is what I got to do for this, and we're gonna go through all the studying we need to do, whatever it is, the drills. Rosen was just sort of like, all right, I'm not buying this, and I'm curious to see if Gerard remembers any other quarterbacks that were just like, yeah, whatever, I'm not doing this. But Rosen was definitely one that was like, yeah, I'm not into this.
I have seen a lot of these guys up close and personal at this event, and it's really fun. I remember I thought Dante Moore was going to light college football on fire, and then he had a tough year at UCLA, and now he's in line to be Oregon starter as a third-year guy. Julian Sayin won the Elite 11 a couple years ago, and he's at Ohio State now. I don't know if he's in line to be the starter, but he will be in that mix. So it's going to be fun to see some of these guys play a little bit more now, and we'll see how Jonas Williams looks. And just because I think it's a double-edged sword. Like, just because you do really well at this event doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have all the success, and then it's the opposite. Just because you don't do as well doesn't necessarily mean you won't have a good college career. Like Avery Johnson at Kansas State was a guy who was kind of middle of the pack, and now he is everyone's favorite quarterback in that conference. So really excited to see how it plays out. But just because someone wins it, someone loses it, like everyone is just so obsessed with the season right now, and like, okay, any competition we can get. If the USC quarterback gets the top spot, we want, like, I would not read into who does amazing at this necessarily, because I don't think that can tell the whole story a lot of the time.
No, sure. There could be some drama, and I think Iowa State's quarterback commit just switched to Alabama today, so going into the Elite 11. I don't know if you saw that, Connor,
I saw that.
But yeah, that's an interesting one. Like I mentioned, 3 years ago, dropped covering. Who was the quarterback at the time? Oh, who's the one that transferred out a bunch of times and now is like why am I blanking? The quarterback from 3 years ago that was at Elite 11 when USC. Who were we covering at Elite 11 3 years ago?
3 years ago?
Yeah. That was the
Malachi Nelson?
Malachi Nelson, who transferred
You're giving
out.
me all these trivia questions.
I'm just trying. You're young. I want your brain. Yeah. Malachi Nelson was there, and going to film him, and then we just had to abandon everything because USC and UCLA were leaving for the Big Ten. You'd mentioned that on the personnel staff there was a little bit of news of that for Max Steneker with Wisconsin getting like some recruiting penalties, and he was there at the time. I know there have been some reports out there, and what you've heard and posted on the Peristyle, but looks like he's going to get a week where he can't contact recruits, and then some probationary period. But doesn't look like a big deal. But that's one of the USC personnel staff that was involved in something that Wisconsin is getting a little slap on the wrist from the NCAA, but he was there at the time when this was going on.
Yeah, just to fill people in. So he has a year-long show cause, which I think started maybe yesterday, and from Monday through Sunday, he's not able to communicate with recruits. But then once that week ends, he's good. And the show cause pretty much is just a fancy word for probation. And USC was already on probation because of that weird too many analysts on the field thing from October, which, like, they've gotten in trouble. Steinecker got in trouble for a rule that is no longer on the books, and USC got in trouble for a rule that is no longer on the books. And I hope people who listen to this podcast know, like, if someone made a real mistake, like, we'd hammer him for it. This is a slap on the wrist, and it's deservedly so. I mean, in this era of college football, if you're making too many phone calls to a recruit, like, give me a freaking break. Like, there is just so much else that is going on. And so it's a slap on the wrist. And because USC already was on probation, like, you're not on double probation, so nothing bad happens. It's not like it's a stacking of a punishment. You can't be on what did you joke about, like super secret?
Double secret probation.
Yeah, there's none of that. So he can pretty much do everything that he was doing before after this week, and just don't mess up again in the next calendar year, and he'll be fine. It really was a nothing burger.
It is funny where you're like, Yep. Don't send that extra text message or call that player, but you're allowed to like give them $5,000 to come visit your school. You know, like there's like a whole. It's like okay, like the rules have changed so much. You're like, yeah, some of these don't make much sense. So you remember before, like you could provide like bagels for the players in that, you know, in the meeting room, but you couldn't put peanut butter on them. But they would buy like a $3,000 machine to make peanut butter. Like you could provide butter and peanuts and whatever, and they could make peanut butter, but you couldn't buy a jar of peanut butter. Like that was against the NCAA rules. So a lot of these rules are sort of outdated. That's certainly one of them. He's getting a slap on the wrist for that. We just want to mention it. But just to let people know, not a big deal. It's not going to impact USC recruiting. They're not going to drop down the number 5 class or anything like that because of this. So just passing that along. The calendar too, things are changing. And I like Ross Dellinger a lot. He does a great job covering college football and a lot of this newsy stuff. It can get a little much, but there's a lot of things that are probably going to change in the calendar, mainly because the calendar was developed for an amateur sport and it is no longer an amateur sport. So I think we've talked about signing day for a long time. It looks like there's going to be a push to have a signing date maybe in the summer. There's a lot of talk about moving the transfer portal from 2 windows to 1. Apparently the Big Ten really would like a spring window, and most everybody else likes a January window. So there's some battles and stuff going on with that. The whole point of spring football also potentially changing. Maybe it's more of like an OTAs kind of thing in June, and you get more conditioning. I know Kansas State did that pretty much this year because I talked to people at Kansas State when USC hired Jermaine Carroll, and they were just so depleted, and they had guys leaving the portal and a lot of dudes injured. It just didn't make sense for them to have a bunch of football practice when there wasn't a lot of guys. So a lot of their spring practices, or a good portion of them, were given to the strength staff to just do more conditioning workouts and things like that. So we've seen the spring games go away. So I think there's a lot of aspects of the calendar that are going to change. And he was, Ross right now is in North Carolina. It's the 32 Division I conference commissioners are doing their annual meeting there. There's a new committee that's going to address a lot of this, the calendars and stuff. So there's some changes and stuff brewing. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what happens there. But I don't know what you think, Connor, but I do think the calendar needs to change. It's just, it doesn't make sense the way it is now. It's a little too crazy, especially in December.
No. I like one transfer portal. I think that's just easier for the coaches to have one period where some guys will leave, some guys will add. Like, to have to do that twice is hard. And credit to USC, they really didn't lose in the spring window, unless I'm drawing a total blank. I don't think they lost anyone of real consequence. It was a lot of reserves. In the window prior, of course, they lost some different guys, but I thought they overall did a solid job of retaining the guys that they needed to retain, and there weren't any big spring surprises, so that was great to see. And yeah, hopefully that'll go away in the future. I like the idea of, and now we get into the crazy, ideas of it, but like I don't know why you wouldn't be able to do it in like May, and then once June 1 hits, you got everyone on board for the whole calendar year, and like maybe the month of May is the transfer month. But I'm sure there's a reason that wouldn't work, but that just makes the most sense to me. That's the true off season. That's May. Like, what do we have going on in May for USCFootball.com? It's like recruiting stuff. There's not a lot of football stuff.
Yeah,
that would make sense to me, but I don't know.
And I think like having a signing day like after these official visits end is a good, like, hey, you take a bunch of visits in June and stuff, and you have a signing day in July or something, like before camp starts. The transfer portal is interesting. All the SEC coaches are looking at it from like a football point of view. They want January. And apparently the Big Ten coaches, where a lot of Big Ten schools are on the quarter system, they wanted to line up with their academic calendars and have it more in like April. But then the SEC coaches are saying like, well, why would you like train up these guys for 3 months and then go through spring ball, and then you have the portal, and then they just leave and go somewhere else? So I think from a football point of view, I think January probably makes more sense, but it is still,
it's just hard when that's your championship month. That puts those teams at a massive disadvantage. But I guess if you have to do that, you just deal with it. I totally get what you're saying. Why would you train up those guys? But I think what would happen would be is a guy would go through the season, they'd be upset, and then yes, you'd miss out on valuable spring practice reps, but a lot of people would enter the portal in like January, and then they'd just work out on their own, and then in May they'd sign somewhere else. And yeah, that might put a guy behind developmentally, but at least everyone's playing from a level playing field.
Yeah. So, but that's going to change. I think just having now knowing that it's a professional sport. Like you're paying the players directly from the schools, and that's going to develop too. But you need to change the calendar. They're just holding on to a lot of old sort of values there. We got a super chat on YouTube from Eddie and Orange. Bring back the podcast for champions. Okay, Eddie. Yeah. David and I have talked. Yeah, we're gonna do some stuff. It's not going away. It's just it's tough doing stuff in the off season. We were both a little burnt out. We're not gonna do two shows a week for sure, but we'll keep doing shows. But appreciate the super chat, and sorry people give you so much grief for your voicemails on the Composite 2-Star Recruits podcast. He's got another one in there. So Chris, if you're listening, I loaded up Eddie's voicemail for you. So if they don't play it, Eddie, it's not my fault. It's in the system. All Chris has to do is hit the button. He just has to choose to do that, which I'm sure he will. There's been also some other, I don't know if you saw this. University Louisiana Monroe cut its tennis program. Washington State took out the field part of the track program, so no throwers and stuff. John Colich would hate that. And according to Jamie Gordon, the CEO of the Volleyball Coaches Association, last month, 32 D1 Olympic sports teams were cut since the settlement announcement. That was reporting from Ross Dellinger as well.
So 31 out of 300-something schools? Did you say 31?
32 sports teams have been cut. So it might be at the same school. I mean, I don't know how many schools.
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying is that many?
No. There's probably thousands of teams. Yeah. So it's not a ton. Good. I'm curious to see if that happens more. I think what the settlement does is when you, especially on the roster limit part, now you can have 35 baseball scholarships. And you can have 14 or whatever it is, 15 men's volleyball scholarships. And now, you could only have 4 before. It's all those cost money for the athletic department. They can't just say, well, now the rules have changed, we're allowed to do that. Their budgets for years and years were just like, hey, we can have a men's volleyball program, but we know we only have to support it for 4.5 scholarships, or I don't know what the exact numbers are. And yes, we want men's volleyball to succeed, but we don't have the budget to now go up and fully have a full roster, even though you're allowed to now. Before, their budgets were kind of constrained to this was all you were allowed to do. Just because you're allowed to do more, I don't think any athletic departments can fully fund all of the sports like that unless you have some mega booster.
I think A&M is doing that, though. Right?
Are they trying to do it?
I think so.
Maybe. And it'll be interesting to see if we're going to do that, but to support baseball fully, we needed to cut something else or whatever. There might be some of that too, how are you distributing the money? But it's not unlimited funds, and adding scholarships to a sport costs money. I know it's with the school, and you're like, you're going to the school, it's just free. It's not free. You talk to athletic directors, like, no, it costs us money to have more scholarships for these sports that don't make money, that actually cost money. So we'd be spending more money on these sports to fully fund them. So I'm curious to see what happens. I mean, I don't know. Maybe the Olympic Committee, for the United States is like, hey, we're going to partially fund some of these because you guys are our feeder system and our youth program, essentially. I don't know, but it's, we'll see. There's only a few programs have been cut, but maybe more to come. I'm not sure what's going to happen.
It seems like USC is doing everything it can, though, to make sure that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think USC is cutting any programs. But when people are like, you're going to add this, they can't add anything. They're struggling for the budget, and I think all athletic departments are. They're struggling to figure out a way to make this all work. And how do you stay competitive? USC's obviously been competitive in these Olympic sports. They've finished second, by a hair in the Directors' Cup from winning the whole thing. So they're doing a lot of stuff right. But, is that going to change? I don't know. We'll see. We have a voicemail kind of discussing that too. Cool. So that was the calendar. And then the last thing before we get into questions, I want to talk about previewing some of the schools. So the summer school series, it's been great with the Cover 3 podcast on the, our CBS Sports 247 Sports Network. Go check those out. I did the one, I think it came out last week for Bud Elliott. But I know Illinois, Iowa, Notre Dame, Oregon, UCLA, Michigan State have all been out, and you've been stories on all of them. Maybe not the Michigan story.
UCLA and Michigan State aren't out yet, but I've done them. So
You've done the stories, yeah.
Knowledgeable enough.
I don't know if you want to go each one individually or if you just want to kind of in general, like go through. I mean, you could go one by one. I don't know. How would you like to do this?
Maybe I can just throw some stuff at you and just see what you think. So
okay.
We can start just in chronological order. So Missouri State, obviously, haven't done one with them. Georgia Southern, haven't done one with them. Purdue isn't out yet. The first one is Michigan State. And Ryan, they didn't impress me very much. They're little 20-minute from Stephen Brooks, who does a great job at Spartan Tailgate, but what he had to say about the program didn't impress me too much. They're relying on a big year 2 jump from Jonathan Smith's coaching. They didn't add a lot of players, but they're relying on a big jump from year 1 to year 2. Just the fact that they've retained their whole staff and everything, and they're excited about that. So they got Aiden Childs back, the quarterback. He led the Big Ten in interceptions last year with 11. They have a really good receiver coming back, but then outside of that, it's a lot that's up in the air. USC plays them at home. Unless there's some big surprise that we don't anticipate, that to me is a very winnable game. And a lot needs to go right for Michigan State to really challenge USC that I don't foresee happening. So based on what I've seen so far, that first 4-game slate for USC, that seems pretty straightforward and should be winnable. And then the first challenge at Illinois the following week. And there's been some back and forth in the comments about how good people think Illinois can be. I've heard from
preseason 15, there were a lot of the top, early 25, top 25 polls.
They're a dark horse college football playoff team. Return their starting quarterback in Luke Altmaier. They have all their important coaches coming back, head coach Brett Bielema, OC, DC, and they returned 16 starters from last season. They have some question marks on the defensive line, but just the fact that USC plays them on the road. And last year, Illinois did what USC hasn't done in a couple of years. They beat everyone they should have beaten. So whether they were overrated, underrated last year, they beat South Carolina in the bowl game. That's going to be a challenge. I don't care if you don't think they're as good as I think that they're going to be. They took care of business last year against teams that they should beat, and they bring a lot of people back. That's going to be a challenging game. So that was my read on it here. I can just pull up what I wrote on how they match up. So Illinois will provide the Trojans with a true test. The Illini have a good coaching staff and a roster with college football playoff potential. On paper, the team's 2 weaknesses are at receiver and in the middle of the defensive line. Will USC be able to exploit those? Illinois didn't turn the ball over much last season, and the team was rarely penalized. USC will likely have to play mistake-free football on offense to win, which didn't happen a ton last season. The game is certainly winnable for USC, but in order to do so, the Trojans will need to show the improvement the fan base is hoping for. So that's my read on that game, and we've talked about the barometer for next season, whether it's Illinois, whether it's Nebraska. I start with Illinois just because I think they'll be better than Nebraska, and it's earlier in the year. But I guess I'll pose this question to you, Ryan. It's really hard to answer right now when we haven't seen much, but do you think USC is capable of playing that, maybe not mistake-free, but limiting the mistakes in a way that they didn't do last season to make the improvements that I think the fan base hopes they can make?
Yeah, I think on the defensive side, they were so much more fundamentally sound. I think that's certainly possible. It's going to be really on the offensive side. You can't have the peaks and valleys, and you can't sleepwalk through 3 quarters and then try to put it together in the 4th. And I think that's going to be Jade Mayava and his development. And I know there's some talk in the chat about Lincoln Riley and all that. So yeah, I'm curious to see if they're going to be able to sustain something like that. But I think there's going to have to be some of these road games where you go in knowing that we got to come in and play well. There's no, play like crap for a little while, make some good plays, make some bad plays. You're going to lose those games. And a lot of those last ones were, last year they lost making bad plays late. But I think some of the teams you're playing this year, you make second quarter mistakes. It's going to not just late fourth quarter mistakes. So I feel better about them being able to do that. I think the defense will take some more strides, but I just think how fundamentally sound they were on the defensive side, were maybe not spectacular plays, but they weren't having the major busts like they were having the previous couple years. I think that's a great sign. And they got to fix stuff on the offensive side. And with Lincoln Riley, you assume that's going to be an easier job, but we'll see.
That's the $1 million question to me, is how much better will the offense be? Because I do think the defense will take a step forward. I can't say how big, but I like the personnel there better than a year ago. I think everyone who's listening to this would agree. So that is significant. But on offense, like, look at the areas of the program that has changed since Riley's been here. The whole new defensive staff, the defense got better. Whole new recruiting staff, the recruiting has gotten better. The strength staff, hopefully the strength stuff gets better. We'll see if they can close games. Like, what hasn't changed is the offense. And then last year they had an outlier year where they weren't very good. But even the year before that, the offense was clunky, and it was a big reason why they struggled down the stretch, especially with that offensive line. Like, they did put up a lot of points, but it just really didn't look the way you were hoping it looked. It was a lot of there were a lot of mistakes, and it was just kind of Caleb Williams bailing you out. So it's 2 years of an offense not really being as buttoned up as you would like, and like they haven't really made a lot of offensive changes from a coaching perspective. And my fear is, like, have they adjusted enough? And that's kind of the $1 million question. And I'm specifically concerned about the offensive line. So that Illinois game will definitely provide a test to USC, and I think what I said holds true. Where if USC has made the changes that the fan base hopes, we'll see it in that Illinois game, and if not, then people will be disappointed. So that's why that game I have circled on the calendar.
Yeah. In the chat, we had some people saying that USC is going to be a favorite, 4-0 going into that game. USC could
certainly
be
possible.
Yeah, they could be 4-0 going to the game.
They'll definitely be 4-0.
Yeah, but as a favorite against Illinois, and it depends what Illinois does early in the season too, but they're going to have a preseason ranking that's higher. USC beating, 4 tomato cans going into that's not going to bump USC up unless Illinois drops down. I'd have to look at Illinois to see the early part of their schedule. They got some tough ones early.
They have at Duke, which is their hard one, and at Indiana before, so they could definitely have a loss on their schedule.
Yeah, and Indiana could, potentially take a step back, but Kirk Cignetti was, really good there. So we'll see what happens. But I don't know, unless Illinois loses one of those games, like at Duke or at Indiana, if USC would be a favorite. If they were both undefeated and Illinois has a win at Indiana on the schedule and they were preseason 15 or whatever they're going to be, I don't know if USC would be the favorite there, especially on the road.
One thing I think is funny, I'm 90% sure my record prediction is going to be 9-3, but that's not official yet, but that's the way I'm leaning right now. So I think the team is going to be pretty good. I know a lot of USC fans feel the same way. What makes me laugh, though, is when the national people don't really buy into USC and then the fans get mad. It's like, oh, like, what do you mean? You haven't seen all these changes that we made. It's like, USC's done nothing to earn the benefit of the doubt on the field. They've done a lot of stuff right in the offseason, but the last 2 years, the way it's gone on the field, like, there's a reason no one's believing in them. So that has kind of made me laugh. And when I see people, they're definitely going to be favorites against Illinois, like, oh, Illinois stinks. They're a basketball school. Like, you have to understand that there's a reason the perception exists that USC might not be a favorite in that game, and they might have a tough year because just that's the way it's trended the last couple of years, and people just seem to forget that every offseason.
Yeah, Christian said the difference between us and Illinois, and he puts an E at the end. I'm not sure why, but that's not how it's spelled.
He's right. They took care of the teams that they needed to take care of, and they won the close games. Yeah.
They won close games.
I'm stepping on the comment. Go ahead.
Yes, don't get to read it. You just comment. 4 or 5 one-possession games, and USC lost them. And the schedule is a lot easier than USC, so we'll see. But the early Illinois schedule is harder than USC, so yeah, we'll see.
I think he was talking about last season, and it was
last season. Okay,
the ranked teams that they played ended up not being ranked. Like, they squeaked out a win at Nebraska, who was ranked for some reason at that point. They beat Kansas in a one-score game. They were ranked then, and that didn't end up. They didn't end up being good. The South Carolina win at the end of the year was impressive, but I have a hard time really buying into what happens in a bowl game. I just
Right.
think so much has changed. So yeah, the schedule was easier for them, but they took care of business against the teams that they should have taken care of. And I mean, at Washington, at Minnesota, at Maryland, like, is that not easy? Like, that should be easy, but it wasn't for USC last season.
You know, Nebraska was ranked. I think got ranked early. They started off like 5-1 or whatever, and they beat Colorado, and I think they crushed Colorado, and then so people got excited, and then they limped home, but did make a bowl game.
Yeah, that Colorado win got them over the hump because they beat UTEP and then Colorado by 18 and then Northern Iowa, and then they were ranked, and then Illinois beat them, then they beat Purdue and Rutgers, and then the losing started.
Yeah.
Should I get it? I know I'm taking a ton of time. Should we maybe save some more of these for next week, or what do you think?
Yeah, so we still have
Notre Dame and a bunch of other teams. Still four more.
Yeah. We'll who'd we talk? We talked about Illinois.
Talked about Michigan State and Illinois.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll save the other ones for next week. That sounds
maybe 2 a week, and that's fun.
I like that. Yeah. There might be some more coming out. I think Washington just came out, but USC is not playing Washington this year, but a team that was on USC's schedule last year. So why don't we do this? Let's take a quick break. We'll come back. And we got a lot of questions. We've got questions in the chat. So thank you for watching us live, YouTube, Facebook. I've starred your questions if you put a question in the chat. We've got a couple emails, got 3 voicemails, like I said. We'll get to all of them right after this. All righty, we're back here on the Peristyle Podcast. We got some questions to get to, Connor. If you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook, I'm showing you the studio. You can get a little different view. Me at my desk, not facing Connor. Connor gets to face me so he can like stare daggers at me if I say something stupid, which I do quite a bit. We had a couple voicemails from our buddy Rick, and let's play this first one because we sort of talked about this a little bit. Money in college sports now. Let me play it for you.
Hey, this is Rick from Vista. I'm an alumni and class of, I'm not going to say, don't date me. But anyways, I'm from Vista, California. And I got some questions. I love all the great people that they're bringing in, or kids to play, but are we going to run out of money? I mean, it seems like we got to be spending millions of dollars. And I'm just wondering if we're going to run out of money. Second question, how much money do we have for the basketball program, the baseball program, soccer programs? How much money is being allotted to those groups? And do we have somebody like Chad Bowden who's running those programs to get the top-notch athletes in here? I'm assuming if we have unlimited money, which I don't think we do, that we could be able to dominate all sports. I saw that we came in second place in the Directors' Cup, and I think we're trending upward. Anyways, I'd like to hear your thoughts. Thank you, bye.
Thanks, Rick. Yeah, so USC has a general manager. My understanding is women's basketball does too.
Yes.
I don't think men's basketball does, but they might be getting somebody, or they're potentially hiring someone there.
That would be awesome to hear, because Eric Musselman last year was pretty against it. He said, I have a lot of front office experience.
Oh, okay.
But
then maybe not. Then maybe I was mistaken.
I think it would be a big boost. So the first question, are they going to run out of money? Hopefully not. But I understand the question when they're recruiting at this crazy clip, and these top football recruits all cost money. They are not cheap. There's a reason they picked USC for non-financial reasons, but the financial reasons are a huge part of it as well. So
he said it seems like it's costing millions of dollars. It is.
Yes.
Tens of millions of dollars,
so,
not just millions of dollars.
Yeah, and I think what is so confusing about this, so the House settlement allows every school, if they opt in, to pay $20.5 million for every sport. So they can divvy that up however they want. It seems like football at most schools will get the most. I don't know exactly how much that is at USC, but let's call it.
It's in the 75% range,
yes.
Like at least $15 million. I think everyone that takes football seriously will spend $15 million at least on their roster.
Exactly. So that's $15 million all for current players. So take away. Well, I guess they can spend it however they want, but let's just say that $15 million goes to current guys. So 2026, that doesn't affect them. When someone asks, are they going to run out of money? Like, no, but I don't think what they're doing now is sustainable. So don't
100%
expect a
agree.
number one class every year. Like, I mean, I'd never say never, but like they rushed to get a bunch of NIL deals done before the House settlement started, so they wouldn't have to report them to that clearinghouse. So did every other team who takes football seriously. That's not USC bending the rules. That was just a smart play. And so much of what they've paid out has been front-loaded because all those deals don't have to go through that clearinghouse, and that's why you saw a lot of these top guys commit so early in the process. And USC was smart to do that. They got ahead of the curve and said, hey, we can pay you a good amount of money if you commit now, and if you stay locked in, then that's what we'll do. And like this was smart of them to do. But like moving forward, when you have to report every deal, whether it's someone on your roster or whether it's someone you're recruiting, to that clearinghouse, that's going to affect how they act moving forward. And the fact that all these deals were front loaded has skewed it, and that's why like so much money has gone to these guys so early. Like USC will still be paying a lot of money to every recruiting class moving forward, but I don't expect them to have that number one class so early every year.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And I don't know if I answered the question, so I have more thoughts, but go ahead.
Sustainability is a problem. It's if you have people, donating money, and it's, I mean, if you're talking like the big donors with a lot of money, it's like, oh, you got a building after you or whatever. Well, this is like, oh, you got a team in this year, and guess what? You need to do the same thing next year because you need a team next year too, and all your great players that are sticking around are going to cost more money. And Ohio State 2 years ago paid a lot of their dudes to stay instead of going to the draft, and they won the championship. Michigan does the same thing the next year, and they win a or vice versa. 2 years ago, Michigan. It costs money each and every year. And if you have a benefactor like, Phil Knight at Oregon, the guys, the couple billionaire, oil guys at Texas Texas Tech, they're trying to win a softball championship and spending a lot of money there, but they're spending a lot of money on recruiting, the portal and everything at Tech. Also, that helps. Now, if one of those, Phil Knight's in his 80s. If he passes away, I'm sure he set up some trust or something. But having someone that's really looking out for your sport, and I think USC's done a good job of that on the football side. We've seen the results in track. John Colich, we already mentioned that we know, who's a benefactor for the track program. And, he would love to have more people donating, but he's been supporting it a lot. And they won national championships, in a huge part because of his help. The building on campus that the track program uses to recruit and house everybody, that doesn't happen without someone from the outside coming in and saying, hey, here's a check, let's do this. And I think, yeah, you can be dominant in other sports. We're seeing like Texas Tech made a huge run in softball by buying Stanford's pitcher and paying her $1 million, which is unprecedented in the softball world, but boom, you can do it. So yes, I think you can do that, but I don't know of other boosters in some of the other sports. Like if there was some multimillionaire, billionaire, former men's volleyball player that's like, I want USC volleyball to be great. I'm going to, pay for these extra scholarships and things. Like you can have boosters do that now and make those sports better. I don't know if the athletic departments are going to have the funds to keep everything great. Like you're going to need outside help. And maybe before you couldn't help that way if you were some rich alumni that ran track or whatever it was, if you played volleyball or water polo or something, and you could donate to the athletic department, but now you can do direct to like, hey, I'm going to pay for these guys' scholarships. We mentioned, Sue Sim, right? And we were told that she donated a baseball scholarship. You might have people doing that to add and help the athletic department. So is it sustainable? Like it's tough, but there are people, if you find the right people out there that can help your athletic programs, you can make it work. And we'll see. We've seen it work in track. Like, but Connor and I both know John, how dedicated he is to making track great. And I don't know all the behind the scenes stuff that he did, but I know he did a lot and they won. You get guys like that for other sports, men or women, whatever, supporting these sports, you can have success. I mean, I think John's proved it with track, and you're seeing it in the football side. Football side, there's more to it than just money. But USC was recruiting well before, and I think a lot of these sports, track has a great history. So you add the resources, and you can do great. And I think most of USC sports, there's a lot of great history. Women's basketball, there's a lot of support for Juju Watkins and stuff, and you're seeing them have success. So it can be done, but you're going to need these benefactors in all these sports, I think, to make them all great.
John has helped out with both basketball programs too.
Oh, yeah.
Which is awesome. So just to answer the question, will they run out of money? I don't think with Jen Cohen in charge that they'll ever hand out checks they won't be able to cash, but I do think in a given year the pool of money that they have for a given sport will fluctuate, if that makes sense. So like some years you'll have a recruiting class of 2026 that's exceptional, and other years they're going to try as hard as they can to replicate that, but maybe there will be other years where they just get outspent because for whatever reason they weren't able to fundraise enough compared to the year prior. And ideally, you'd hope like a kid would just take a little bit less to come to USC because of everything else that's so great about USC. But like, I envision going forward, maybe one donor like gets upset and it's like, okay, you know, I spent all this money last year and I didn't get the return on my investment that I was hoping for. I'm not going to pay this, and then that affects how you can recruit and who you can get from the portal. And so it's kind of crazy to say, but like, they're not going to run out of money ever. Like they're with the TV deals and with all the money coming in, tuition and stuff, like there's always going to be money there, but like you might not be able to get that really great player one year and maybe another year you are. And I think that kind of goes for all the teams, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And just to be clear, like the $20.5 million, you know, there's a lot of stuff that counts against that. And you have to get creative with the recruiting. If you added new scholarships, like, oh, let's add a whole bunch of baseball scholarships, that's supposed to count against that $20.5 million.
Exactly.
But what's going to happen is about 75% for most schools that take football seriously are going to go to football, like 15 million-ish. Say that's going to go to your football roster. That's not enough. Like that is not enough to have a nationally ranked football team and nowadays. So you're going to need the outside deals, the NIL deals. There's going to be even more. So that's just so you know, like, oh, USC is going to put all 15 million that they should towards football. That's great, but they need to do more. They did more than that last year, so it's not enough. Ohio State's going to do more. Alabama's going to do more. Georgia's going to do more. Oregon's going to do. Everyone's going to do more than that. But that's money you can pay to your student athletes however you want. The rest of the money you pay has to be, you know, according to the House settlement, real NIL deals. So we'll see how that comes through.
And we kind of answered about a general manager for other sports, women's basketball, men's basketball, maybe football. I don't envision other programs really having one. Maybe
probably not.
Baseball, but how much money do you have? Do you have enough money for a baseball general manager for USC baseball? The last thing, how much money for other sports? Eric Musselman is a really good fundraiser. He got some donors to donate some money to him. So
I'm here they're really well funded for men's basketball.
Yes. So the House settlement money helps, but they have a lot of outside money there. Women's basketball, they are going to have one of the higher percentages of the House settlement, I think, is going to USC women's basketball. That's what we were told,
yeah.
And then they have some outside funding too. But outside of that, like, I don't think USC beach volleyball is getting a ton of money, but maybe there's one donor that helps them out. So they're going to get a little bit of money from the House settlement, and then everything else is a bonus. It's confusing. It's kind of tricky to talk about sometimes. I hope we answered the question. I know we spent a ton of time on it.
Yeah, sorry. But it's a big part of it. It's not.
I understand the question. Like,
yeah, it's not amateur athletics anymore.
I do have a lot of faith in who's running the operation. So like when I do get that question, like, are we going to run out of money? If you're a USC fan, I don't envision that happening, but like, I get the question.
It's definitely a problem. I mean, there's a lot of scrambling, a lot of work being done behind the scenes to make all this stuff work. Mike wrote in, I think today, so this was an email question. You mentioned on a recent podcast, Trent Mosley was spotted on a visit with some other recruits. He wasn't listed as an official visitor, so I was wondering what the difference is in an official versus an unofficial visit. I know as an unofficial means the recruit has to pay his own way to campus. That was the way it used to be, not anymore. But once there, then what happens? What differences will an official visitor have compared to a recruit on an unofficial versus official visit? Fight on from Mike.
Not much. Like, there's a reason Jonas Williams is on all these official visit weekends, but he's not in a official visitor, and it's because he's the quarterback in this class, and you can kind of do whatever. There's not, like, Gerard and Chris would know better, but the way I understand it, like, yes, there's probably some small difference, but like, there's really not much of a difference between unofficials.
Yeah,
and
before
officials.
it was like you had to pay your own way, and now like you could, like, hey, USC could pay you to come visit unofficially, and you could do these dinners and all that kind of stuff. But you can. The line has definitely been blurred a little bit. I don't know. They changed the rules. It used to be, I think players could only do 5 official visits before. And
yeah, now you can do unlimited.
I think you can do unlimited now. So there's a lot of stuff that's kind of changed with those rules.
I do think one key change is if you're taking an official visit and you're a recruit, like, that's when they're going to try to blow your socks off even more so than the unofficial. So like when Jonas Williams is on his unofficial trips, he's doing everything that those unofficial guys are doing because he's trying to help recruit them. But like when he's on his official visit, it's more about him than it is about him trying to recruit guys, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Jeff says, costs like $60K a year at USC. They better not run out of money. All right. There's a lot wrong with that statement. One, it's closer to 100K than 60K. And two, that doesn't go to the athletic department. The athletic department pays that tuition for all of those student athletes. So they're paying $100K per scholarship. So that doesn't help USC. I don't know how I know the basics of university accounting, but if you think that, they have this endowment or tuition's this much, so they can afford to pay the football players, like that, very different money. And universities right now are struggling because I think there's been some changes in the way, federal grants were done and their budgets are changing. I think this is going to help. The athletic department's standing in universities was very strange because you think this is like an arm of the university that's out there. It's like the facade. It's the curb appeal of a university. Like the University of Alabama has become a much better university, getting on TV, being a powerhouse in the football world. It's helped the academic side of the university tremendously. I think it's done the same thing with USC, other places. And, I know all the schools are ranked higher just because there's more students out there. And, when I was going to school, San Diego State was a party school, safety school or something. And now it's hard to get into. Everything's got, USC I wouldn't get into today when I got into back in 1989 or whatever. It's just different, like but the athletic departments help for sure. And I think the way universities sort of treated the athletic departments is they had to like spend money to be part of this thing. I think now there's going to be or at least some massaging of, all right, we're not charging you for all these scholarships, or we're going to do it this way, instead of the way it's been, where it's like, hey, the athletic departments are providing a service to the university. You would think, and I think a lot of fans just assume you're catering to the athletic department. Like, no, they're paying the $100K tuition for everybody, which seems stupid. And I think it is stupid. But yes, just because tuition is not $60K, $100K, that doesn't mean they're not going to run out of money. That doesn't go to the athletic department. They actually pay that instead of getting that. Is that a good way to put it?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Let's do Curtis's voicemail.
Hey, Ryan, I should have chimed in on this a long time ago. Notre Dame and USC, the possibility of that game, of the rivalry ending, I do not like it. I like playing Notre Dame every year. We never have to deal with snow. They fix the schedule so we have good weather and we don't have to worry about that part of it. And it's nice to have a top team on your schedule. That's called strength of schedule. Now, I think that we should definitely do like the SEC teams for the most part with our non-conference schedule. Besides Notre Dame, make sure they're easy games because the Big Ten is going to be tough enough. But don't back out of our tradition. Don't back out of playing Notre Dame. I'm for the rivalry continuing. Curtis from Moreno Valley.
We've spent a lot of time on this in the offseason. Just to quickly run through it, it doesn't look like the Big Ten and SEC are getting those 4-team automatic qualifiers in the playoff that they initially wanted. Now the SEC's kind of backed off on that a little bit. So USC, they offered Notre Dame a 1-year deal, and it would have been a multi-year deal if they had gotten some guarantees from the college football playoff that the Big Ten would get 4 automatic bids. That doesn't look like it's going to happen. And the SEC, they also wanted the Big Ten and USC wanted the SEC to play 9 conference games like the Big Ten does, and we'll see if that ends up happening moving forward. But both of those promises, like USC wanted, and I don't know if they're going to get them. And USC offered a 1-year extension for Notre Dame, and they said no. So ideally, we'd love a long-term one, but I understand why USC would want to wait on that with all the different things going on in college football. So I think publicly it looks like USC's ducking the game, but they're just kind of going step by step here, and they did offer Notre Dame a 1-year extension, and they said no. So technically, if they don't play in 2026, that would be Notre Dame's fault.
Yeah. Let's go to a question from YouTube from Darren. What is the impact of the House settlement in the House of Victory Collective's impact on paying current student athletes?
So I just am a realist. I think sham NIL deals, not that House of Victory does that, but like they're going to get $15 million for football to pay the players, and then they can just pay them, and that doesn't have to be NIL related. But like the donor money that is outside of that House settlement, as long as you correctly like express in the Deloitte clearinghouse, whatever it's called, like your little statement, we're signing Eric Gentry to $1 million deal to go to the South Bay Toyota dealership for an hour and sign autographs, and we're paying him this much. Like, I think that's going to go through, and maybe he doesn't show up. That's okay. Like I still think you're going to be able to have these deals that go outside of like a traditional NIL deal, and you can just pretty much directly pay the players as long as you dot your I's and cross your T's. I hope I made sense there. I like House of Victory is still going to be working with donors to get guys more money outside of the $15 million.
Yes, and I think you're right, Connor. And I think from the people I've talked to, and I've talked to people inside House of Victory, and they're still waiting. You know, this is all changing. But the good thing is that USC, they've been kind of like the rule followers. Like we mentioned this before, until that Tennessee court case, USC wasn't even involving House of Victory in the recruiting process. So they weren't using NIL as part of a recruiting tool. They were like, once you get here, we'll talk about NIL deals. And you had Oregon saying, here's $1 million if you come. And so that was a hard way to recruit. They obviously changed that. And now House of Victory is involved in the recruiting process, and NIL deals are part of recruiting. And that's part of the reason why you can bump things up and have the #1 recruiting class. But, you know, we know the way House of Victory runs. USC is still following some of these rules that I know a lot of universities aren't even looking at, where there's deliverables. So they're paying, like they have a deal for Eric Gentry, whatever his NIL deal is. They give them a list of deliverables. And if you watch any of our House of Victory interviews with the players, we've done a whole bunch. We've been doing at least one a week. Check them out. Every one of those student athletes have been doing, there's charity events that they do. They're just coming on shows like ours to talk about, and, where House of Victory is being promoted. They're getting compensation for that. They have deliverables, and there's checking of boxes. So USC is already doing that stuff, and I think a lot of schools aren't. They're going to probably have to do at least what USC is doing already now. So I think USC is well positioned to, hey, here's the sheet of what their student athlete got paid this, and this is what we asked them to do. Now, maybe the Deloitte thing says, well, you shouldn't get this much money for going to the boys club or whatever it is. I mean, that would be tough if you're putting value on charity and stuff. But whatever. But USC's already have this like checkbox thing with deliverables for everyone that's getting paid. So that's probably a good thing. I mean, it is a good thing to go into this new era of now you have to show why you're getting paid. USC was already doing that with, I think a lot of schools weren't. They were just paying them. So I think USC is well positioned for this, as well positioned as you could be going in this new era.
I think House of Victory will be used by USC to pay guys NIL money from donors, like through the deliverables.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Deloitte will say, hey, you didn't do all these deliverables, so you can't get that money, like violation. I don't see that happening. I kind of think it's like if you try and you put your best foot forward.
Yes. USC's trying already.
Exactly.
A lot of schools are not trying. They'll probably continue to not try, and like they would, if USC's not, if USC's like cheating on their taxes, it's like they put an extra something, charity something, whatever, where other people are just ignoring income and like way bigger things that you would get audited for. So, I think, USC, I think like I said, well positioned. They're already trying to do things like quote unquote the right way when it comes to paying student athletes. So, we'll see what develops. Curtis, is there any transfer portal players that USC is going after?
For football, no.
Yeah. We have NIL for high schoolers, but are they willing to spend big dollars on the portal for this coming season? Oh, that's Curtis Moreno Valley also, yeah.
That's over. And they did spend
some money
on some guys. So they weren't in on the David Bailey sweepstakes. He went to Texas Tech. It seems like a lot of guys went there who were looking for the big paydays, which I understand. So they didn't go after any like super, super high profile guys in that spring window, but like Keyshawn Silver, the #1 ranked defensive lineman in the 24/7 sports recruiting rankings for the transfer portal, like USC got him. So that they made some splashes in the other one. But they're really trying to prioritize high school recruiting over the portal. So that's been why the high school recruiting has been so much more active.
Blackie Chan, do you think Lincoln Riley will repeat last year with the team captains where there wasn't permanent captains?
I hope not, but I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I like the 4 captains. I think that's the best way to do it.
I like it that way too. So, Jamie, here's I think he submitted it twice, but I'll read this one. Am I wrong to think that the expectations for Jade Mayava should be sky high given Lincoln Riley's track record, and that if Lincoln Riley can't extract a high level of play out of him, maybe he isn't the QB guru we think he is?
Sky high is a stretch, and no matter what happens going forward, Riley, I think, has earned the QB guru moniker just because of all the Heisman trophies. But, if they have a bunch of seasons with subpar QB play in a row, and, does that lose its luster a little bit? Yes, but I don't think you can ever totally take it away from him. But I get the comment there. I thought Miller Moss would be better last year than he was because of the Lincoln Riley magic. So expectations probably should be a little higher based on Riley's track record, Mayava having another year in the system, him knowing that he's going to be the starter going into the year now. So a lot of those erratic mistakes that we saw in the bowl game, should we expect to see that? I don't think so, but it's hard because he wasn't really the highest ranked recruit. He was a transfer.
Yeah.
It's now coming into his second year here, and he knows he's going to be the starter. So, expectations probably should be higher, but I understand why they aren't.
I think some people in the chat were saying, well, sometimes that's a ceiling. Well, it's also Lincoln Riley had options to recruit over him or go to the portal and get somebody else. He's obviously had a lot of success doing that. All the #1 picks he's had, the Heismans, all that stuff. He's proven track record, obviously, with quarterbacks. But, you get some misses sometimes. So if we don't see improvement from Jane Mayava, I think some of that's on Lincoln Riley no matter what, even if you could say just he didn't have, his ceiling was only so high. Talking Mayava as a player, Riley had the opportunity to see all that, and if he felt like he couldn't be the guy that would take this team to the next level that they want to get to, then you could have went out and got somebody else to try to do it that way. So, but yeah, I think his track record, you can't erase it just because you had a couple of bad years. I wouldn't say that.
And like Spencer Rattler, was he great with Riley? He was probably better than Mayava and Miller Moss, but I don't think he lived up to the hype that people thought. So he's not batting 1,000, but he's batting pretty damn close. So
yeah, and he replaced him with a guy that won the Heisman.
Exactly. So maybe Hassan Longstreet's that guy. We'll see.
Yeah. All right. We have another voicemail from our buddy Rick in Vista.
Hi, this is Rick from Vista, longtime Peristyle member. Thank you for the show. I'm alumni as well. But anyways, question I have is, how good are these 2 defensive tackle transfers that we got over the NIL, etc., the transfer portal. How good are these guys going to be? Because I don't think we have much reinforcements coming until 26, when we got those big guys in the middle that are freshmen, that will be freshmen. Anyways, I'm just wondering how good those guys are, and how good is the coaching? Can those guys coach up the players to want to come here because they know they're going to move upward, maybe become an NFL draft pick? I really like the video of the Ram Great and the new recruit we have coming in working out together. That was pretty cool. But can you also tell me what advantages do we have, or does the school have, in getting top players to the program? Anyways, love to hear. Thank you. Bye.
I mean, Rick, they got the #1 recruiting class, so I don't know. So yes to all that.
So, I mean, I don't know how good the defensive linemen are going to be. You kind of have to take the rankings with a grain of salt. Like Derek Harmon last year was by far the best defensive lineman in the portal, and I think he was ranked like 6 or something. So, like, Keyshawn Silver's #1, but does that automatically mean he's going to blow up and become an NFL draft guy? Not necessarily, but hey, they got the #1 guy.
Yeah.
So is Eric Henderson an attractive option for recruits? Absolutely, because of the Aaron Donald connection, because of the NFL connection. Yes, and you're seeing that. And USC is also paying these guys. So, like, that combination is working. I think they've recruited the defensive line in the portal and in the 2026 class. That's the best position group on the field. So it's clearly very attractive, and that's what's working. But how good are these guys going to be this upcoming season? Silver was more of a run-stuffing player at Kentucky, so we'll see how he does in a bigger role. He was hurt for a lot of the spring, and then with Ja Jarrett, it seems like he's doing everything right and is taking that step forward, but he didn't play a whole lot at Georgia. He has had some weight issues in the past, so I don't think we can say one way or the other how good these guys are going to be, but what I am confident in is that USC has way more depth there than they've had, and I think one guy is going to be really good at a minimum, whether that's Devin Tompkins, whether that's one of these new guys. Like, I think it has to be one of those three, but I do think, like, even if you don't have an incredible middle of your defensive line, there's so much depth there that the level of play should rise, and it should be good enough to get them to a 9-win or 8-9 win season at a minimum, in my opinion.
Yep. Thanks, Rick. Aaron emailed in, if USC were to go 10-2, are we making the playoff? Like, let's say losses to Oregon and Notre Dame. I think we either go 11-1 or 10-2 with a home playoff game. How relevant is USC again to the media? From Aaron.
I think 10-2 gets you in.
Yeah,
I'd have to look last year, but was there a 2-loss? Like, didn't Ole Miss have 3? Didn't those teams?
Clemson had 3. They won the ACC.
Yeah, Clemson won the ACC, but like, I remember Ole Miss was all pissed that they didn't get in.
We didn't. There wasn't a. Ole Miss, Alabama, and South Carolina all lost like a crazy game.
Yeah, Alabama had 3 losses. South Carolina had 3 losses.
So
Ole Miss had 3 losses, and so,
there were
like,
still
we deserve to get in. We deserve to get in. You had 3 losses. No, you didn't. So 10-2, yes, you're in.
Yeah, 10-2 for USC is in. Like, Indiana 10-2 might not have got in, but 11-1 they were in for sure. But, like,
Miami was 10-2 and didn't get in, but they lost to freaking Syracuse at the end.
Yeah. But 10-2 USC will carry more weight. Now, those two, the biggest games on the schedule, if you lose to Oregon and Notre Dame, but still.
If you're 10-2 in one of the big boy conferences, you're in. Miami not in a big boy conference anymore. Yeah. Sorry. Clemson 9-3, they got in. UNLV 10-2, not in a big boy conference. Like that's the difference. If you go 10-2 in the Big Ten or the SEC, you are in no matter what.
Yeah. We got a few more from YouTube and Facebook, and then we'll sign out. Anthony, have all the rest of the 2025 freshmen now are official on campus and moved in?
Yes.
Yeah, so they are all there. So everyone's come in. Jay on Facebook, thanks for watching on Facebook Live. We had a bunch of people on YouTube watching. I think I know we've had some on Facebook too, so appreciate you guys watching live in the middle of the day in June talking USC football. I know you love it. We love it. Let's see. Recruiting, is USC still going after Jet Washington?
Yes, but it looks like he's probably going to go to Oregon instead of USC, but I believe they are still recruiting him.
Yeah, out of Bishop Gorman. And again, like we mentioned, USC is doing so much better against a lot of these players that Oregon would get, especially the Southern California kids. Oregon's still really good. Like, they recruit really hard. They have great resources. USC is not going to win every battle, but they're winning a lot more to the point that Oregon fans are getting frustrated. And you just wanted to be able to be on a level playing field to try to go toe for toe with Oregon. I think this class, they're showing that they can compete now. They're not going to, they're probably winning more of the battles than losing them now, as opposed to losing almost all of them before. So it's a big deal. But yeah, it'd be a great get, but it looks like Connor said, more leaning towards Oregon. Swayze, USC lost their MVP last year, punter Eddie Chaplitsky. Who will be his replacement?
Sam Johnson from Valparaiso is who USC targeted in the portal, got him, gave him a scholarship. He is the punter for next year.
Nice. And 11 Network. How many games are we predicting that USC is going to win this year?
It's not my official prediction, but I'm leaning towards 9-3.
That's where I'm leaning towards as well. I think these previews will kind of come through. I mean, I told you guys a couple weeks ago, I thought the Nebraska game was sort of like the, barometer for USC. You got to go win some road games. It'd be huge if you can go out and beat Illinois early in the season, especially a ranked Illinois team on the road. Like that would be a big step in the right direction. There's two really tough ones at Oregon, at Notre Dame, which we think are going to be really tough. But, any game could be tough on the road for USC, just the way they played the last year away from home. So, yeah, we'll see. But I'm leaning towards 9-3 as well.
Which would be a significant improvement. Like, obviously, the 3 wins is huge, but, like, that would show me, okay, Lincoln Riley knows how to win in this new conference. Like, that would be really, really big.
Yeah, and I think if you're doing that, you're looking at winning the games that you should win. Like they've lost a bunch of games they shouldn't have lost last year. You're playing much closer to your talent level, and especially how competitive were you in the really tough games? Their tough games are on the road this year. But if you're beating Iowa, which is going to be pretty good at home, and Michigan and Illinois on the road or whatever, there's a lot of good signs if you're going to win those games. It's last year was just like, man, like what a mess, and so many of them. You would have cleaned up a lot of the mess from last year if you go 9-3. So I think, yes, it's 3 games better, but just overall improvement, which I think it would show a lot of improvement. Like, okay, you've gone a step in the right direction. Now you're going to bring in the #1 recruiting class and build on that for the next season. I think that would be a big improvement and show that the program's going in the right direction. Less than that, I would be concerned. Obviously was concerned when the team goes 6-6 after going 7-5 the year before. But I agree with you, Connor. I think 9-3 would be a big improvement.
And they've struggled on the road. No one's debating that. But like last year, you had Notre Dame at home, Penn State at home, 2 teams that were 2 of the best 4 teams in the country. And USC was competitive in those games, and they lost those games. I think they should run the table at home this year. So, yes, struggles on the road, that's a whole separate issue. But, like, is there a home game that you're really nervous about? Michigan, maybe, but it looks like they're going to have a true freshman quarterback. Iowa, their offense will be better, but their defense has lost a lot. UCLA is a little bit of a wild card with Nico. Like, the fact that USC should be in a position to take care of business at home, and they've shown, like, especially last year, if you're not playing a behemoth, you're probably going to win. Does that carry over? That's me assuming a lot, but like I think they should be able to take care of business at home, which is a big part of my leaning towards the 9-3 prediction.
One last one from Jamie, just because I want to kind of address this, and we'll let everybody go. Are there concerns around Lynn leaving and affecting the class? Penn State made some headway with him pretty easily. I mean, okay, his alma mater, who's finished in the top 4, and some people think is the #1 team in the country this year with a lot of guys returning, made some headway. Like I wouldn't think that's concerning. Like I would be more concerned if you're Penn State. Like you should have been able to get USC's defensive coordinator who went 6-6. USC stepped up and kept him, and Penn State goes out and gets Jim Knowles, the defensive coordinator from the national champion Ohio State Buckeyes. That should be like a feather in USC's cap that they were able to keep him. If USC has a good year, he's going to be a hot commodity, and yeah, he could go somewhere else, maybe be a head coach. Who knows? I'm not sure what's going to happen there. But the way you worded that, I wouldn't say like making headwind with him pretty easily is like, no, like it should have been easy for Penn State to hire him as their defensive coordinator. And the fact that it wasn't, that's the storyline for me.
Totally agree. Them retaining D'Anton Lynn was the biggest win of the offseason in terms of what's going to happen on the field next season.
Yeah. He could go other places. He's going to, if they have a good year, he'll be a hot commodity.
And you know what USC will say? We're going to get the best defensive coordinator possible.
Right.
And when you commit to a school like USC, like, just an upper echelon school with a lot of resources, I almost threw them in a group with a bunch of teams who, have won championships. They should be there. They're not right now, but they could get there. Like when you're in that bucket, those schools lose assistants a lot, and then they just replace them with another great coach because they're a destination and they have those resources. And if you're a recruit, you understand that you're still getting paid a good amount of money, and you trust that whoever the next coach is going to be the right person. They might lose a guy or two, but it's not going to cause devastation to a class if D'Anton Lynn ends up leaving after the season.
Right. Yeah. 100% agree. That was just the story about losing him, but losing the recruiting class. It's not like, oh, you lost your defensive coordinator, the recruiting class goes away. Like that's just not the way it's going to work in general now. Plus USC would backfill and all the support, everything else they got going on for it. Yeah. So it would not be some devastating move to the class. If it's a big deal. I mean, if D'Anton Lynn goes somewhere else and the NFL, or it's going to be a step up wherever it is. And, would just show, hey, USC did something good. They hired a guy that was really solid, that did really well, that is now a head coach here or a defensive coordinator in the NFL or whatever it is. You want guys moving up like that. You want your linebacker coach to become the head coach at Fresno State. That means you hired a pretty good dude. And what they do, they go replace him with Rob Ryan. So that, another really good dude. Like, hire good people. If they get hired away, replace them with good people. That's, I think that's what USC is doing now, and that's the recipe for success, in my opinion.
And the timing is important. If D'Anton Lynn leaves like right before signing day, that would obviously have a worse effect than if he left right after. But if he goes to the NFL, it would be after the signing period, which is important. And I think that everyone understands that, and there's a right time to leave and a wrong time to leave, and I think that would be factored in.
Yeah, you don't want Chip Kelly and leave, your head coaching job to be an offensive coordinator in the same conference. But I just joke about that. All right, well, let's wrap things up.
Long one today.
It was long. Yeah, there was we had a lot of questions. Thanks for all the questions. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for writing in, calling in. We appreciate all of that. Leave us you got your iPhone there. Just look at Peristyle Podcast on your Apple Podcasting app and leave us a 5-star rating and a review. It's fun. Say a joke or something. We'll read it on the air for sure. You leave 5 stars, we'll say whatever you want. So just write whatever you want in there, and we would love to hear from you through that. But thank you for tuning in. Hope you all enjoyed the show, and we will talk to you next time.